My name is Greg Barabal, and together with Mike Rothkugel, we're going to take you through an exploration of Microsoft Room Systems and how those work on Skype for Business and Microsoft Teams. So I wanted to start with just a discussion about meetings. And when you think about the meetings that you attend and the meetings that your employees attend, the hierarchy of needs or the expectations for meetings are actually kind of surprisingly obvious and somewhat easy, you'd think. People want to start meetings on time. They want to show up, have everything ready. They really want the room to be out of the way and not a factor, and really focus on their own content, the material they've worked hard to create, and keep the hour productive hour. They want to join from anywhere, any kind of device. So maybe I'm at my PC at work, but maybe I'm at home, or maybe I walk into a room, or I'm on my phone, hopefully not in the car, but maybe driving. I want a very predictable, I don't want to learn anything when I try to join that meeting. I just want to click and join. I want very high fidelity audio. Video is important. Audio is really critical to a meeting. I want to hear what everyone is saying, whether they're in the room with me or remote. And I want to be confident. I want to know that when I speak, the people that are in the room can hear me, and I don't have to kind of do unnatural things to get their attention. I want to feel like I'm part of the discussion, like I'm in the room with them. And finally, I've worked hard to create some material. I want to make sure I can get that material into the meeting. I want really easy content sharing. Maybe it's just plugging in my PC. Maybe it's having some PowerPoint content I've created available. So this is a pretty low bar, it seems, right? Like every meeting should be able to achieve these things. And given where we are, where the industry is, it seems like these should be pretty easy, but it's not. Here's what's actually happening. At Microsoft, at least, the average right now, and this has improved over the last few years, but the average is 7 minutes. 7 minutes after the scheduled start time, online meetings actually get joined and underway. We have a lot of telemetry that tells us this. Now, part of that is a human issue. People show up late, meetings run over, and the next meeting begins late. But I don't want to blame it all on the human issue. There's a lot of technology that gets in the way. People do have a hard time joining. They join and they can't hear and they hang up and try again. There's also a lot of complexity in actually getting the meeting joined. So I'm sure this is not unfamiliar. A string of a phone number that you have to dial. In the Outlook invitation on your phone is a PIN that you have to memorize because copy and paste doesn't work well. Then you have to speak your name and pound, and there's a tone that says you're joining the meeting. It's not one click. This isn't a trivial joining experience. We need to make that simpler. As far as audio quality, just by show of hands, when you call your spouse, if you call to order a pizza, if you call your kids, is the first thing that you say, "Can you hear me okay?" Anyone? No, because we trust it. We know that when I place a phone call and I dial a number, it's going to work. They're going to hear me on the other end. I can just start talking. How many times when you join a meeting and you click join and you get in, how many people say their first words are, "Can you hear me?" Everybody does, right? I do it every time I join a meeting. So that's about trust. That's a lack of trust that when I connect, people are going to hear me. And honestly, 99% of the time, they say yes, it does work. But it's still a condition now that I've built. I've established a lack of trust in the meeting service. And then finally, plugging in and adding content to the meeting. At Microsoft, we've got an HDMI cable on the table. Attached to that HDMI cable is a keychain of adapters for mini HDMI and for mini DisplayPort and VGA. And the VGA one, 9 times out of 10, has broken pins in it that isn't going to work, right? So this is how content sharing is today, and this is the bar, unfortunately, that we've set for people. We need to do better. So we're going to talk about how we do this better. So to frame the rest of the discussion, there are obviously a lot of different meeting room types, sizes, shapes, uses, and functions. We're going to focus on 3. We'll start with this huddle space. Below that, there's the personal office and the executive office and the cubicle or the private meeting space, phone rooms, even like one-person phone rooms. Those are important to us, and I think we have solutions that can scale down to those. At the high end, you've got rooms like this, auditorium-style rooms, multi-purpose rooms, extra-large, just private conference rooms. We can scale to that as well, but it's not, that doesn't represent most of the market. So we're going to really talk about 3 types of spaces. The first we call huddle space or small space. These are generally 2 to 6 people. On average, these are 25-to-1 employees to room ratio in a typical company. So there's a lot of these, and especially as the workforce gets younger, they have a different way of working. They're not used to the private office and kind of being secluded away from everyone. It's a more open, collaborative environment. With more open workspace, you need more small collaborative spaces that are private. You can close the door and go and have a discussion. So these are growing the fastest. There are more huddle rooms added every year than anything else. As it is right now, there's over 30 million of these types of rooms. And the budget today is quite low. 1,500 up, some of them go up a lot more expensive, 15,000 kind of at the peak, but the normal distribution of that puts an average huddle room at around $3,000 wallet for the enterprise to build out. And they're on a refresh cycle of about 4 years. So and that actually makes some sense. So their companies are replacing rooms about every 4 years. So they do 25% of all room types per year. And one of the reasons for that is, at least we've been able to do at Microsoft, is negotiate with the equipment makers mostly for 4-year warranties. So we have essentially all of the conference room equipment under warranty at all times. Going up from the smallest, the focus and huddle rooms, we see the medium-sized conference room. So this is the 7 to 12 person range. There's about 12 million of these, and they hit around 100 employees per room. The budgets here span a huge range. So there are small ones that aren't super well equipped. They'll have maybe a TV, some ingest. And at the high end, these are really high-end VTC capable rooms. So they range from $5,000 to about $35,000. And then at the high end, kind of 13 people and up, called the large conference room. There's about 2 million of these. These don't grow super quickly. There will be 2 million of these for a while. There's about 600 employees per room of this size or type. And the budgets here go way up. So these can go from 50,000 to 100,000, $250,000 rooms even. They get quite expensive, but very capable. So for us today, I want to talk really about these two, about the kind of focus room and up to the medium-sized room. The rooms themselves we're underserving the people that use them. About 3% of these rooms actually have advanced VTC capabilities. The rest of the 97 are split between basic video-capable rooms, so I could join a meeting. I can plug in a camera and maybe join from my computer. They may have a display only and a phone where I just plug in ingest and show whatever I have locally, but the room itself isn't registered and joined. Or it's a phone with nothing else. There's really nothing else in that room. We want to make that better. So we think there's an opportunity to make every room a registered room, kind of invitable and play in the Teams and Skype ecosystem. So I'm going to invite Mike up. He's going to take us through how this experience manifests in Skype and Teams.
Thanks, Greg. Well, it's pretty exciting to be here for Ignite and part of this transformation to intelligent communications. And what I want to talk about here a little bit is around some of the design principles about what our Skype Room Systems are all about and how that transitions into Teams. So Microsoft Teams is really an amazing collaboration hub, and as part of O365. And as you've heard at Ignite, Teams meetings, Teams itself will eventually replace Skype for Business Online. But it's going to happen over time. And in the meantime, we're going to be supporting, in terms of room systems, we're going to be supporting both Skype for Business Online and Teams meetings and calling capabilities. So a key design principle is that we create predictable experiences across all Skype Room systems and Surface hubs. One second. So with just one touch, I can start a Teams or a Skype for Business meeting. I can easily start an ad hoc online meeting, invite others, dial a phone number. I can project my screen using HDMI or wireless. I can share PowerPoint files into the content bin and control that, the actual PowerPoint forward and back, just like we're doing here. Remote attendees can see that. Folks in the room can see that. And when my meeting's over, with a single tap, I can end the meeting and be confident that all of the content that I've shared into this meeting has been cleaned from the device, and I can walk away knowing that nobody else is going to see that content. And then it's a Windows-based application. So as an IT pro, I can easily deploy, manage, monitor these systems just with the same tools that I use to manage the rest of my Windows PCs in my organization. So our room systems are designed to scale, as Greg's talking about the different room sizes, from small huddle rooms to large conference rooms. And we do that by expanding the Skype Room system with certified USB peripherals such as satellite mics, speakers, sound bars, and so on. And as I mentioned, we provide simple and predictable experiences across all of our form factors. Again, with easy one-touch join, with desktop and content sharing, clear audio, and HD video. Again, it's built on Windows. IT pros already know how to do deployment management and the entire life cycle, along with the rest of your organization assets. Tomorrow we have a session that Greg is running along with David over here on how to deploy and manage Skype Room systems, and also talks about the certified devices in the program. So come see that one tomorrow morning. It's 9 o'clock here. But these same design principles that I just mentioned apply to both Skype for Business and Teams. So you'll see a consistency in experience between them in terms of the capabilities. And Teams over time will offer more robust capabilities that will light up on these devices. So here we have a Surface Hub, which is our premier collaboration device. It's built on many of the same principles, again, as our room systems. One-touch join for scheduled meetings, support for ad hoc meetings, HD quality audio and video. It's also a great platform on which to create and ideate with the Microsoft Whiteboard. It's got built-in mic arrays, dual cameras to catch the action from wherever it's happening. Creates an amazing meeting and collaboration experience. It's really immersive. So it's an immersive platform to showcase Windows Store apps, and you can share those into your meeting as well, whether it's something like a Power BI. And then finally, as with the room systems, Teams meetings and calling are also coming to the Surface Hub. So talking a little bit about what it means to support Teams on Skype Room systems. So Skype Room Systems and Hubs will support joining Teams and Skype for Business meetings. By design, the experiences are consistent. Notice on the image up in the upper right, the calendar there, the device calendar, has both Teams and Skype for Business meetings showing up there. It depends on what service was used by the scheduler who organized the meeting. That's what controls what's there. And then the one-touch join will work for both of those meeting services. And then once you click on the join button, it will launch into the appropriate meeting service. It's also important to note that core Skype for Business capabilities will be retained as we do this support for both systems. So that's not going away. They'll all still be there. And then Teams meeting capabilities on both the Skype Room Systems v2 and the Hub systems will be retained. And we'll have parity with what you see in Skype for Business. So you shouldn't see any deprecation or loss of capability. But then as Teams evolves, there's going to be more capabilities that are appropriate for the meeting room scenario that will light up on these devices as well. I think on Monday's afternoon session with Lori Wright, she talked a little bit about the meeting life cycle. If you've seen that, talking about what happens pre, during, and post a meeting, and how all of the content is stored and associated with the meeting life cycle, so that you can get back to it at any time. These devices will participate in that life cycle. And there's another session that Amay is going to be doing also tomorrow that talks about Teams meetings in depth, and he'll be covering that as well. So with Teams on a hub device, we're going to gain some functionality that we don't have there today. One example is, you can see there on the lower right, is just 4 video streams. We don't have that today. It seems simple, but it's been a consistent ask from customers, and we'll get that with Teams. I think the last thing I want to mention is a super important one. It's the one in red at the bottom. So the Link Room Systems, currently known as Skype Room Systems V1, those are also going to be, or we're going to provide an upgrade path to the Skype Room Systems V2 software stack. That will turn those into those devices. You don't have to change the device. The device itself stays the same. We will drop a new software stack on it, including firmware, that will upgrade those devices to be able to run Skype for Business and make them a Teams-capable device. And you can see most of what we've just talked about here and what we will talk about, Greg will talk about in the upcoming portions of this discussion at the Modern Workplace booth in the Expo Center, as well as several of our partners' booths. We have maps and locations of all those booths in the main booth that we have as well. So I'm going to turn it back over to Greg, who's going to demo these experiences and show you some of the device portfolio.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, let me switch over to the demo. Okay, so Mike mentioned that we are bringing all the capabilities of Teams and Skype into the room systems. I have up here one of 2 devices on the planet that currently allow Teams join from a Skype room system. The other one's in my backpack, in case this one fails. So this is very fresh. I actually picked up the machine in the car on my way to the airport to come down here, so that's my caveat, just in case things go south, but I'm very confident. What you see here first is Outlook, and I'm going to schedule a Skype meeting, and I'll do this the way I'm sure you guys do several times a day. I'm going to invite the room, and so my room account is Rigel Devo4. And the first thing you'll notice among all of the other out-of-office messages of the people I've invited that are all here in the audience is that we have a tooltip that comes up for the room system. So part of when you set up a room system, you can add a message that users that schedule that room will see in Outlook, and it just informs them about what to expect when they get to the room. It's part of giving people a predictable experience. They don't have to learn anything. They can see this tip and know, oh, this is a Skype-capable room. I can just show up and join. You can customize that message, of course. And it says Rigel in this one. Rigel was our code name before launch. So this is an Outlook invitation. I've created a really cool presentation about the International Space Station. So I've prepared that ahead of time. I'm going to load that into my meeting. And the result of that is going to be when I send it, everyone obviously will get it. It'll end up also in the bin, the content bin in the Skype for Business meeting. And our room system device will actually show that automatically. I'll show you what that looks like. So my invitation's ready to go. So I'm going to send that one off. Oh, it does occur in the past. No, don't send that one. Let me book that for, I guess I was up early practicing or something, I don't know, 4:30. We'll make that for 10 o'clock meeting. Okay, so that one's gone. So now let's check out Teams. So I'm going to go ahead and just schedule a new meeting. And again, I'll make this a demo meeting for Teams. And again, I'll invite the same folks. Yep. Oh, sorry about that. So I'm going to invite the same people again. Oh, I am Greg Berry. It's not going to let me invite me. I'm going to invite the room. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and send that one off. Okay. So now, oh, I didn't check the time of that one, did I? Well, it must be the next time slot because I created it. Sorry, the sharing stopped there when I launched that. Okay, so now we're gonna get a little. This doesn't require quite as much as the keynote with the 4 doctors on stage. You don't need a physics degree, but what I'm about to do is a little complicated. So this machine that you're seeing is actually, the output of that is going into my room system as an ingest. So I'm sharing this. And the screen that you're seeing is actually being output by the Skype Room System. So this is as if I just walked into the room and I'm sharing something with you, so I just plugged in my laptop and you're seeing it. The part that gets a little crazy is I want you to see the console. So to do that, I put a camera, and I'm just going to run the camera app. And so you're actually seeing a Skype Room System fed back into itself and then out into the room. So let that sink in for a minute, and then we'll move on. What you see now on the screen, this is the user's experience if they were to just walk into this room now that's been scheduled. They see, in this case, 3 meetings that are occurring today. The first one is my Skype meeting on Teams, then the meeting on Skype at 10 o'clock, and then this other test meeting that was set up later in the day. Like Mike pointed out earlier, you can actually see on these, we have an indicator now. It's a little blurry, but we have an indicator of what type of meeting that was. So you'll see that it's a Skype meeting or a Teams meeting. It doesn't really matter much to the user because the join experience is identical. So there's a join button on both, and that's how they are going to get into the meeting. Before I do that, I want to show a couple other features that people will see when they walk into these rooms. The first and most obvious that we want, obviously, is the join. They see the name of their meeting, they tap and join. If that isn't one of their meetings, we lost it again, sorry. Okay. So, well, that's one of our features right there. So this stop presenting is I'm not even in a meeting, I'm just sharing through the machine in the room. So I'll turn it off for a second and bring it back. When it's off, also, what you're seeing here is the typical front of room experience. And we're set up in this room just for one screen, but we could actually have 2 screens, and you'd have this side-by-side image. One has the clock, and we have our nice kind of branded background, themed background. So this is obviously the front of room experience, and then when I present, we take over the screen with the content. From this, I can also invite the room, and we give the user some instructions about if they were to bring a laptop in, they already have their meeting scheduled, they just want to kind of bring the room into the meeting. They can do that by just following the instructions. It tells them how to use Outlook to forward the meeting. They can also create a brand new meeting. So I can use this and search for anybody in my directory. I can type in an email address, I can type in a phone number. So here I could type in Mike's name. And we'll see it does a directory search. And we come up with Mike. And then I can invite him, which I won't do for this purpose, but you get the point. So I can walk in the room, I haven't scheduled anything, and I can just use the UI to search my whole company directory and invite in the folks that I want to participate. I can also use the dial pad, something everybody expects and is familiar with in a room. And from this particular account doesn't have a provisioned phone number, so I'm not going to actually try to dial anyone, but I could dial any phone number and just call them into the room. But again, for the purpose of this one, I've invited the room to my meeting, so I'm going to just go ahead and join it. I'm going to start with the Skype one. And what we should see, and I'm going to mute right away to save your ears. So on my console now I see that I've joined the meeting, and I can see who else is in the call. And so for right now, that's just me, and hopefully Dave and Mike, and you didn't get the invitation? You got Teams? All right, well, let's go to Teams. Well, actually, go ahead and join Teams, and I'll be there in a minute. And everybody will see what that looks like anyway. Before I just hang up, though, let me walk through this one. So this is now a Skype meeting that I'm in. What I would typically see here is a list of all the people that are in my call with me. So that's my meeting roster. From there, I have a lot of really convenient features, like for the person that's at home and their dog is barking in the background, I can mute them right from this screen. I can mute everybody if I choose to. I can add additional people. Even though it's a scheduled meeting, I can still bring more people into it directly. I can actually also eject people from the meeting. And the last thing is, and I won't be able to show this here, but if I invited people from outside my organization and they join, they will land in a lobby. And from here, I see everybody that's in my lobby, and I can admit them or reject them if I choose to. I can have a conversation. So unfortunately, this feature tends to be used for the, I can't hear you guys in the room, can you unmute? But it actually just participates with the normal IM conversation that goes on with any meeting. So everybody that's online would see that appear in their Skype client. And then I also have my content bin. So this is, right now I'm sharing HDMI, but I can switch this over and load up PowerPoint. And now again, because you're seeing the front of room experience, you've lost the camera that's pointed at my console, and you're going to see my PowerPoint slides. And from here, I can actually, just using the console, I can step through this really amazing PowerPoint I put together about the space station last night. So let me switch back so you see the camera again. The last bit here is the layout button. So because we're showing on just one screen, I know it looks like 4, but they're all the same. Rigel, or the Skype Room system, if it were in 2 screens, what you would have is a gallery on one of the screens. So you'd have live video of everybody that's in the meeting. When they speak, the active speakers automatically get promoted. You have a grid of 4x4 participants and a sitting row of the remaining people. And if they speak, they get promoted up onto the stage. And on the other monitor, you would see the content, whether it's the shared HDMI ingest or the PowerPoint or whatever else I'm showing. With one monitor, we have to figure out how to do both. So we've added this layout feature. By default, you'll see what we have here. The default is content plus the gallery. And we vertically stack the people that are in the gallery off on the right-hand side. You would see that if we had people able to join. If I don't want to have the video of the folks online, I can just show content. And so that's what you see here. It's just full bleed content edge to edge. Or I can just show the gallery, which actually in this case I can't because there's nobody in it. If there were, that would be enabled. Maybe this meeting doesn't have content, we're just having a live discussion, and I can just see everybody edge to edge full screen. So I'll go back to the default. So that's Skype for Business meeting. And from here I also have controls like the room volume, so I can really fully control the room right from the screen, and I don't need anything else. So I'm going to hang up this call. And you'll notice the HDMI is still coming out of this laptop, and so we continue the screen sharing. That's really for the people that are sitting in the room. In fact, we auto-detect that. So, and believe it or not, that's one of people's favorite features, that we just auto-detect HDMI ingest. So if I come and plug in my laptop, we just assume you want to start presenting in the room and turn it on. That can be turned off if you choose to, but by default, that's the behavior. So now what we'll have is this top join button, and this is for a Teams meeting. There's about 6 people in the world that have ever seen this, so this is really an exciting moment, at least for me. So we're dialing. And we're in, look at that. That actually worked better than Skype. All right. So actually all these guys are sitting in the audience right now, and hopefully with their mics muted. And so we see a three-person gallery. If I were to join this as well, which I won't do from here, but I can join from my phone, I can join from my PC, I can join from anywhere. And I would become a fourth. We'd go like full Brady Bunch style on the gallery here, and you'd see all of us. So this is super exciting. I'm thrilled that it worked. That's great. And so this is the first indication of what we plan to do to Teams. Hopefully, one thing you'll see from, if I go back to, I'm going to hang up. Oh, you can't see the console now. Yeah, there's no way to show that. But if you could see the console, what you would see is the experience is identical to what you get in the Skype for Business client. We keep the themes of Teams, so we get that kind of purple color on the buttons, but otherwise, there's no difference. So people aren't, just because we're bringing Teams into it, nobody has to learn anything new. They show up, and joining is exactly the same as it was before. So really, it's going to be a pretty seamless transition for people. Like Mike mentioned earlier, the only real difference is how you schedule the meetings. So it's really up to the person organizing to decide if it's going to be a Teams meeting or a Skype meeting. And that's really up to how you're deploying and kind of managing that internally. And then the devices will all behave the right way. They'll just show the meeting and join you directly in. So that takes us through the experience that Microsoft provides to our partners, who then build devices. That experience is consistent across every device. So regardless of who you buy your room systems from any of our partners, everything I just showed you is the same. So we have that continuity of experience across all device types, which is a really big deal. That's super important to us. And they're also managed the same way. So everything I showed you is really an end user feature, what people get when they walk in the room. But it's also important as somebody deploying and managing and buying these devices to know what you're going to get. And that's a PC that's built on Windows Embedded or IoT, and a store app. The whole Skype for Business and Teams experience is delivered as a store app. It's updated through the store. That's, again, the default. It can be done through your own management software. If you use a CCM or something else, you can deploy yourself on your own timeline. But by default, we'll push updates as they become available, and new functionality will show up kind of automatically for folks. The device is just a PC inside, so it's managed just like all the other PCs in your enterprise. And we're also now allowing some OEM extensions. So each of our partners now has the ability to extend the experience in some way. And I'm going to show you examples of what, or talk through each one of what that could be. And starting, I think it was about 9 months ago, we released the ability to do both the dual front of room screens and also this theming. So you can now have custom themes. The one I showed you was the kind of purple theme. That's our default theme. But you can customize that. You can make something branded. You can make a front of room screen that maybe has some instructions, or one of our customers changes it for each holiday. Some are in more public spaces where customers can see it, so they want to have more branding. So we give you that ability now. And then again, tomorrow morning, actually back in this room at 9 a.m., we'll have a session that goes a lot deeper on how these things work, how you would go about theming it, how you manage it, etc. So if you joined last year at this conference, or if you were at Enterprise Connect, you probably attended Ilya Bookstein's session, where he talked about our goal of transforming every meeting room. I think, given we've been in market for a while, we have thousands of devices now deployed at enterprises around the world. I think we're into that journey now. We actually are transforming every room. And we're doing that through this collection of partner devices that I want to get and kind of show you. Part of what helps us scale, though, is that we are built on Windows, and so we get to leverage this USB peripheral model. So Windows has a huge ecosystem of supported devices. Beyond that, the Skype for Business team applies certification to a subset of those that meet our high quality bar for audio quality, video quality. Tomorrow at that session, David is going to talk about in depth what that certification program entails and the kind of rigor we put on the program to make sure that the devices meet our criteria. But with that, you can scale these down from small webcams to large multi-PTZ cameras, one small screen in the front of room to 2 gigantic screens in the front of room. Really, you can scale to just about any meeting size or any meeting room size, and really any budget. The devices themselves are fairly inexpensive. Most are around or a little under $2,000. And then adding some of these peripherals, you can really build out a conference room for about a $2,000 budget, which is pretty incredible. So let's take a look at the portfolio of devices that we have now and coming really soon. The first up is Logitech. They're actually available for purchase now. You can buy them and get them. This is a dock that's built on the Surface Pro 4 form factor, and now it will turn into the Surface Pro. They call it Surface Pro. It's kind of the Surface Pro 5. It's the next version. It's Surface Pro inside, and again, this is their dock that wraps around that device. At this show, this device has been in market for months now. At this show, they're actually announcing an additional wiring accessory where you can remove the base of the dock and install this new base that has a single Cat6 cable that connects the device on the table to the front of room screens and USB peripherals. So this, in our effort to try to reduce the cost and complexity of deployment, this is a huge step, because instead of running 2 HDMI cables, 2 USB cables, and power to the front of the room, in some cases drilling through the floor and running wire, we run a single Cat6 and connected at both ends. They've got a little breakout box that mounts behind the TV. The other cool feature that this accessory provides is a scenario we call bring your own meeting. So today, if you were to walk into a room and you had to do something like run a WebEx meeting or run a Zoom meeting on your laptop. So you're going to come in and run this meeting on your laptop, and you're in a room with a Skype Room System device. The only way to really do that is to plug in the HDMI cable and project the meeting, so you can use the screen, but you don't really get to leverage any of the other peripherals. So if that room has a speaker, a microphone, a camera, you don't get to use those. They're connected to the Skype Room System. This accessory includes a USB dock or USB plug. You plug into your laptop as well, and they take all of the peripherals that are connected to the Skype Room System and temporarily connect them to your laptop. At the end of your meeting, when you unplug, the accessories go back onto the room system and they're ready for the next meeting. So it's a nice way of building kind of a room that can be used for multiple meeting services. They also offer a number of bundles. So they have about 4 bundles that they price together that, again, this kind of shows that scale. So down from just a simple webcam up through a PTZ camera with extender mics for a much larger room that you can put on the tabletop, and kind of everything in between. So the next up is the Polycom system. This is their MSR series. They also have a bundle of 4 different packages, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. Again, Surface Pro based and a dock. This one sits a little more vertically. That actually is great if you want to put it up against a wall. They are here, and their booth is here as well. They've got an accessory they call Pano, and Pano is an HDMI output device that can be plugged into a Skype Room System, and it provides the ability to do wireless ingest. So Skype Room Systems itself can only do wired ingest. So we have HDMI input, and yet you can put different connectors on it, but at the end of the day, it's just HDMI. With Pano, they have their own HDMI input into that, plus they support AirPlay for Apple devices, and Miracast. And I think they also do Chrome. Is it Chromecast as well? No Chromecast. OK. HDMI, Miracast, and iOS AirPlay. They can also do multiple inputs. You can actually build a gallery of multiple inputted devices on our front of room screen. So really cool accessory for adding wireless ingest capability to any Skype for Business room. And this shows their suite of devices. So the newest, announced just about a week ago, is this MSR 100 for the smallest of rooms. And that includes their new VoxBox speakerphone that was announced about a week ago, and an HDMI, a 1080p webcam. And that scales up through the devices that I'm sure you're familiar with, the Trio devices, both the 8500 and 8800, with PTZ cameras, up through, for larger rooms, a round table or a 360 camera that actually sits in the middle of the conference table instead of at the front of the room, and gives you a panoramic 360-degree view of the room that can autofocus on the active speaker. So the folks that are remote would see a panoramic view in their Skype client, and they would see a kind of zoomed-in view of the current active speaker. So really cool device, and integrates seamlessly into a Skype Room system. So that's the Polycom portfolio of devices. From Crestron, this is their, what they call the SR Next Gen Room System. This one is also a Surface Pro-based device. Now their differentiator, what they've done a little differently than the others is, they're the first ones to enable this OEM extension. And so you'll see on the, is there a laser pointer? Yeah, not quite. On their dock, I can use this. On their dock, they've got a little button here. It's a hardware button, just a touch button. And that invokes their custom app that they've built to integrate with their room automation systems. So now from my one console in the room, I can join my meeting, I can do my Skype for Business thing, my Teams thing. I can also fully manage my room. So I can close the blinds, I can change the lighting levels, I can change the HVAC or bring down screens for projection. So their UI is highly customizable, so it's like branded for your company, tailored to exactly what you need in the room. And now with just one console on the table, I get to manage everything about my meeting. So really cool extension. And their portfolio, of course, ranges from small up to the large conference rooms as well. And they do that through bundling with both Logitech and Jabra cameras and mics, up through the Logitech group series that they have bundled with for their dock. So again, wide variety of rooms, and I think really across the portfolio you can see that we support virtually any room size. So announced this week is Lenovo's entry into this space. So this is actually our first Skype Room system that is not built on the Surface Pro 4 device or a Surface Pro device at all. So this is Lenovo's own compute and their own screen, and they've built this kind of purpose-built device for joining rooms. The other thing that's a little bit different about this one is that they've built integrated audio into the unit itself. So you'll see just under the screen, there's the little column. That column is both a pivot, so the screen actually can pivot 360 degrees, but it's also a Dolby speaker and a microphone. So you don't need another audio device on the table. You need a camera. It doesn't include a camera, but it has audio built right in. So for maybe a smaller room, you can just put one device on the table and join with audio. And lastly, I want to announce that we are working with HP. I don't have the device, and they aren't quite ready to show it yet, but we've been working with HP now for several months on a device that they'll be showing and announcing very, very soon. So we're excited about adding a fifth partner to this, to our relationships, and bringing more choice and OEMs to customers. So taking a bit of a look forward of what we are planning and what we're working on. The ability to extend and scale these systems to any room, I hope that's coming through pretty clearly. That's a big focus for us. We think we need to get smaller devices and more capabilities into smaller rooms. And part of that is us building modularization into the model. So the way that we typically work with our partners is we have a document that we call a PRD. It's a platform requirements document. And we issue this document to them, and they implement devices based on that specification. We are now expanding that PRD to include devices that aren't fully integrated. So we're going to allow for more kind of a deconstructed model for our room system devices. So you might have compute on a small computer device, a Nook style thing, a small device behind the screen or elsewhere in the room, and the console separated on the table. Microphones and speakers and cameras elsewhere. So we're really trying to modularize and spread the equipment a little further where it's maybe easier to wire, but also to remove the footprint and the necessity for things on the tabletop. That's going to help us get into much smaller rooms. It's also going to help us get into the much larger rooms. So through this USB peripheral model, we can support things like DSPs and rich audio devices in rooms where the room might have a multi-microphone array in the ceiling or speakers around the sides. We want to make sure those will work with our room systems as well to support much larger rooms than we can do today. We want to add the ability to support multiple cameras. So today we have a one-camera solution. A pretty common feature request is to add things like whiteboard cameras or just a front-of-room, back-of-room camera into it. So we're looking at that. We're also enabling the OEMs to do that through this extension model so that we can support choosing on the console which camera source we want to stream to the attendees and output that to them. Removing complexity of deployment and cost. I talked about this a little bit, and especially with what Logitech has done with their wiring kit, but that's becoming important for us. So with accessories like that, we're looking at how we kind of embrace that and build more support for it into the software itself to make that really just part of the platform and part of the expectations of the people who are buying the systems. And then finally, PTZ control, and again, this will be done through extensions that we'll see partners building into the UI, but the ability to actually use the console to manage an in-room camera, zoom in on certain attendees, pan around the room, maybe pan at the whiteboard if you want to. So this, of course, all in addition to what we're doing to light up Teams and bring all of the innovation that you have hopefully heard about already this week and you will hear about through the rest of the week. We want to bring as much of that that's relevant to a room system as we can. So we are really excited about the ability to now build onto this new Teams platform and deliver really some great new innovations into room systems. So I wanted to do some shameless plugs for other sessions that are happening this week that are very relevant to what we talked about here. The first of which is, I mentioned tomorrow morning in this room at 9 o'clock. There's really 3 topics that we'll cover during that session. One is about phones and what certified phones we have available, both for Skype and as that evolves to Teams. We're going to talk about our certified devices program and all of the robust audio and video testing that we do to make sure that devices meet our bar. And then we'll go into more of a deep dive of how you actually manage one of these systems, how we provide alerting off the device. An example would be if a user came in and unplugged a cable from the back of the device, the HDMI cable. We can actually configure the machine to fire an alert and have an IT pro woken up in the middle of the night to go fix a room. Hopefully that wouldn't happen in the middle of the night. But the point is, the rooms will be more reliable if people are aware that there are changes happening, people are unplugging things, changing things in the room, or devices just break. Unfortunately, conflicting with that meeting tomorrow is a maze discussion about Teams and meetings on Teams. When we had 50-something sessions scheduled for Skype and Teams, and to do that over a few days required some conflicts. This is one of them. So if you don't actually get to attend one of these, they're all recorded, so please make sure you check the recording. And then we also have Andy Bybee is giving a session on video interop solutions, and that happens on Friday at 9 o'clock. So if you're interested in how we bring third-party meeting services and video services into room systems, that would be a great session to attend. And I want to make sure you get a chance to learn more about these solutions. So the first is the Modern Workplace booth down in the Microsoft booth in the Expo Hall. Also, all 5 of the partners that we talked about here are actually on site and have devices. Sorry, 4, not 5. So Logitech, Crestron, Polycom, and the Lenovo device are all here. You can go play with them, try them out. We have them all set up in our booth as well, but go talk to the experts and learn directly about what those devices can do. And then lastly, to learn just about the Teams and Skype transition and what we're doing to bring meeting innovation to Teams, please check out aka.ms/Skype and Teams. There's a ton of resources there. So with that, we're going to take some questions. I don't know if, Mike, you want to come back up? And there's mics kind of in the aisles here. You can come up and ask questions.
So when you talk about the content going to the content bin, what happens to that after the meeting? Does it stay on that device?
So the question is, I think I have to repeat them, I'm not sure. What happens to the content that's added to the content bin after the meeting? So the content bin is a file store that we have in either on the Skype for Business server or in the cloud as part of Microsoft or part of Skype for Business server. At the end of the meeting, the content stays there for a short period of time until it expires, and then we purge the content. It's gone forever. It's there in case you leave the meeting and then rejoin. We don't want to have the content disappear. So we retain it for a short amount of time, and then it's gone. You can also manually delete it from the content bin if you choose to, so it isn't left behind. But it's never actually on this device. It never gets downloaded to the Skype for Business device. It's why I think in the demo you couldn't see the PowerPoint control, I believe. Okay, so I'll tell you what I saw when I did it. What you see is a PowerPoint logo and a forward and back button and a slide number of what slide you're on. Yeah. We don't actually show a thumbnail of it. We don't download the content at all. So all we're doing is sending navigation commands up to the web service to say, advance the slide. So the content stays in our file store online, and it's deleted shortly after the meeting. Yeah. Yep, over here.
We talk about whiteboard collaboration between the hubs and the desktop.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah.
That was my question. Can you speak to it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it possible? Yeah.
That was loud.
Sorry.
So asking about collaboration between whiteboard on Surface Hubs?
The hubs and the desktops, yeah. Is it possible?
Okay. Is it what?
Is it possible?
Annotation? So
is it possible to co-collaborate on a whiteboard between a hub and a Skype desktop?
Yeah, so the whiteboard application, so I think they're demoing that downstairs at the Expo Center as well, and they're working on being able to do that in a more collaborative way than you can today. I don't know exactly what their time frame is, but that is absolutely part of the plan.
Okay, so
so right now you can do it hub to hub, and they'll be doing hub to desktop as well.
Okay, will that be in Skype or will it be part of Teams?
Yeah, so it'll end up being in Teams at some point in the future once they've got that rolled out.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Got 2 questions. First one is I was talking to Polycom earlier this week, and they had talked about how on their Trio devices, thanks.
There you go.
On the Trio devices that they can register, they're having the ability to register to both Skype EV and Cisco Call Manager or some other phone system. Will you be able to do something similar with the Skype Room Systems, register that to like a Call Manager or something like that in case you don't have EV deployed globally?
Do you want to take that or
okay.
Me? So I'll maybe rephrase the question slightly. The question is, will we ever have the ability to have Skype for Business client, like the desktop, not the desktop, sorry, the room system device, register directly with without Teams or Skype for Business? Is that
correct.
With other services?
Right,
services?
correct, yeah.
So the short answer is no.
Okay.
So we don't have a plan to directly register with non-Microsoft services.
Okay.
We do have a plan to support what we would call bring your own meeting, which is I can bring any meeting on my device, into the room and have a great experience in the room. So one example, Logitech actually is what's showing that example today, where I plug in the USB port and I take over the room. So the goal for us is to make sure that when you show up in the room with your own device, with your laptop joining a meeting, you can use all the audio and video capabilities in that room. It just won't be directly through the room system console. It would be through your brought-in device.
Sure. So if you would, in that case, like if you had to do a PSTN call or something like that, and you didn't have Skype EV in that room, you would have to have some kind of a soft phone device on your laptop or whatever.
Yeah, for a normal PSTN call, you could do that directly from the Skype Room System device.
No, I get that, but I guess what I was trying to say is that, like, if we didn't have Skype EV.
Oh, if you don't have Skype, yeah, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you need some way to dial out. So
Yes.
you'd have to. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
And then the other thing was, I just want a point of clarification on this. So the Skype Room System is a Skype endpoint. And the question, I guess, is, since it's a Skype endpoint, if I bring my laptop or somebody remotely is in that meeting and they wanted to share content, they could just share via the Skype client. And would that content be presented on the screen in the room?
Yep.
Wirelessly?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes,
because you said it was HDMI only, and so it was just through a wire, and so I just wanted to make sure that, like, if somebody in the room or somebody remotely wanted to share content wirelessly, they could do that by simply being in the Skype meeting and then
Yes.
sharing the content that way.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I missed that in the demo. To just rephrase what you said, I said if you had content you wanted to bring in, the only way to do that is by HDMI.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. So if I brought my machine in, I could join the meeting myself through my own identity and share. I could share anything, desktop share, I could, anything you can do today in a Skype for Business meeting.
Yep.
And because the room system is a Skype client itself, it's just going to consume whatever is being shared into the meeting and show that on the front of room.
Okay.
And then the next person can share what they want to share too, and they would just switch over. So yes, anyone in the meeting can share, even remotely. If somebody was sharing remotely, they share their desktop, it'll show up on the front of room in the conference room.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Thank
great
you.
point. Yeah, sorry, I missed that. How about here?
I'll add one thing for him. So if you have a Skype server on-prem, you can do what you want. Okay, so you just get a SIP trunk between the Skype server on-prem and your call manager environment, and then you make the Skype room a remote destination profile. We've done it in a few rooms because we do not have this fully deployed yet, and I've got the Skype room on Cisco Call Manager, and Skype knows nothing about enterprise voice, so it's doable.
So you did that then. So you just have to have the SIP trunk between the two, and then that worked okay?
Yeah, and you set up in Call Manager, you set up the
This is great.
Skype room or Skype client, it works the same as a remote destination profile in Call Manager.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks. Great.
So along the variant of EV user or non-EV user, if a user is not enabled for dial-in conferencing, they go into the room system and they generate an ad hoc meeting. It doesn't generate a dial-in conferencing. So, the paradigm is I want to keep everything on the Skype system. The room should basically enable just a standard Skype conference and create a dial-in passcode. It doesn't do that today.
Yeah, that's a good point. So your question is, if I go in and start an ad hoc meeting, I say invite participant, which is our button to start that meeting, and I invite 10 people. That meeting, you can't dial into that meeting on a phone because we don't create an endpoint and we don't actually make that a joinable meeting. We're actually just dragging people into the conference. Unlike if I did it in Outlook, the Outlook add-in generates the PIN and the phone number, and it doesn't generate it, but it gets it and sends it. So I read that as an ask, like a feature request. We should do that.
We don't want to do the registration from the Cisco perspective. We know they can dial a bell bridge.
Yeah.
But it kind of doesn't seem it's counterintuitive.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. For what it's worth, too, and I should mention, user voice. If you go to skypeforbusiness.uservoice.com, that's a great source for customer feedback. We watch that very closely, and you can kind of upvote other ideas. So that one may already be in that list. In fact, I think it is in that list. You can upvote that and suggest that we do it. So it's a great place to go if you have feature requests like that. Let's go right here in the front.
Okay, what are your offerings for out-of-band attendance? I mean, people who are not able to attend the meeting that would see it on video afterwards. And do you have any kind like CXO video editing feature that can shorten the video to a certain amount of time or something like that?
So there was a lot of echo. Was that recording?
So it's about recording a meeting?
Online recording, and then editing the online recording? Yeah. So actually one of the things we showed in the keynote was during the HoloLens demo actually was a recorded meeting, a cloud-based recorded meeting. So that is a goal for us to do cloud-based recorded meetings. We've actually been talking about that for Skype for Business for quite a long time. So that's an area that we are going to invest in and make that happen, and not have like the client-side recordings like Skype for Business has, but make that online. And then once that's a capability, enabling it from the room is a really simple piece of work. So that is our intention, but I can't really share a timeline, an ETA for it at this time.
So we have a couple of hundred SRS version 1. And what I heard you saying that it will be ported over with Rigel UI.
Mm-hmm.
What I did not hear is about the touch support. So that's the one question. And the second one is, on a wireless presentation, I could join via my laptop and do a wireless sharing, but is any other plan, like a Miracast or something, for in-room wireless presentation?
Yeah. Okay, so two questions. One is, wireless, basically wireless ingest, what's our plan around supporting that? And the other question was about SRS V1 or Link Room Systems and our update and touch capability. So I'll take them in backwards order. So for the wireless ingest, right now, the Pano device that Polycom has is a perfect solution for that. So that'll take our wired HDMI ingest, turn it into wireless, and you can have, they support all sorts of things and multiple inputs. We don't have any sort of timeline to do that as part of the core platform. There's both legal and technical challenges to make that work for a Skype Room system. For a Surface Hub device, Miracast is already supported, but for a Skype Room system, it's a little more challenging. So we don't, that's not something that I can give any kind of timeline for right now. The other question about SRS, V1, and touch. So yes, we are bringing what is effectively Skype Room Systems that I demoed today to all SRS devices. That'll also update them to Windows 10. So they're on Windows 7 embedded today. They'll move to Windows 10, so they'll be managed in a better way, and we can do better like things like virus management and there was the virus that affected a bunch of the LRS machines because it was on Windows 7.
I forget the name of it.
WannaCrypt, I think it was, the ransomware one.
WannaCry, yeah.
WannaCry. So that will update the machine to Windows 10. Along with the update to Windows 10, we lose our driver capabilities that we had for touch. So if you have an LRS today or an SRS today that does have the touch screens, the touch capability would be lost. If you're on projector or anything else, then there's no change. You only get features. If you do have touch today, then both annotation, whiteboarding, and front of room touch goes away. So you'd have to join from the console instead of joining from the front of room, but all the rooms have console. So that becomes the only real interaction model. So we don't love that. We're not super happy that we're going to take touch away. There is some work that we're looking at to see if there's any feasible way of getting it to work again through like a touchback to the compute. At the moment, the answer is no. There wouldn't be touch support, but we're trying to make it work. We also don't have the application support. So even if you were to get touch to work, the whiteboard application doesn't exist in the Skype for Business client on Room Systems. So that would be a pretty massive investment. So it may be that Teams is the only place that touch has apps that are relevant down the road, but for right now, that would be a take back of functionality. And do people use it? They use touch? Whiteboarding? because we do, I mean, to be honest, we know there are a lot of touch devices out there, and we hear a lot of people say it's capable, but nobody uses it. Like they just use the console. Nobody goes up and writes on the front of room screen. So it's a trade-off it's hard to make, but it's right now that's the direction we're headed. In the back here.
Yeah, hi. I'm with HP. I work with the collaboration folks. I don't actually work directly on collaboration, but I just wanted to mention there are a few of us here, and we have in the Microsoft developer booth where we're highlighting the collaboration between HP and Microsoft on our premier kind of immersive computer 3D. It's just a phenomenal collaboration experience. So if anyone wants to come and see that, it's not a room controller or anything, so it's kind of tangential. But anybody that's interested in those meeting spaces and a device for sharing physical content, you might want to stop by the Microsoft in the Expo developer booth.
Okay.
We also have a talk tomorrow at 12:15 in the Expo Theater
Cool.
9, I think.
Great, thanks. Here?
Just so that I understand the roadmap from Skype to Team, can you use Skype client to join Team meeting and vice versa?
No.
You have to have a Team client to join Team meeting?
Yeah, Teams can only talk to, for meetings, Teams can only talk to Teams and Skype to Skype.
Okay, and when you,
But
right now
you don't have to have the client, though. You do have to, if you were to click to join and you don't have the client, you would just land in the web experience and sign in. So you wouldn't have to install anything. Your browser would just take you into the meeting.
Yeah.
So you don't have to, you said, do I have to have the Teams client? And you don't actually have to have the Teams client. You just need a browser.
so is that the HTML5? You don't need any client in that case? Is it a WebRTC? Just so that I understand better?
No, that's if you're joining from your laptop, say. Right? If you're joining from your laptop and you don't have the client installed, it will launch the browser and you can just use the web client.
On the same note, if we deploy Team, and I'm assuming because there's no on-prem server yet, and we use Skype for Business on-prem. So if there's a Team meeting, the meetings will be hosted in the cloud, right?
Yes.
It's not going to touch the Skype for Business. Okay. And the second question I have is in the dual screen scenario, and I was asking the same question to Logitech, and you mentioned that when you're presenting content, you will see the content on one screen, video on the second screen. But if you're not sharing content, can we have video on both screens? Is there a plan to support that in the future?
That's one that we do hear a little more frequently. So that's a good one for user voice going upvote. Right now, it is in our backlog of work. Again, it's not something I can share a date for. But yeah, we do want to try to kind of spread the video gallery over 2 monitors if there's no content.
Thanks.
Yeah, we can share that. There's in October we're going to publish an NDA roadmap. So if you're available and under NDA, that'll come out in October.
So just another roadmap question to clarify sort of the evolution of this, or this transition. We're planning to purchase a large number of Polycom codecs and register them natively to Skype via, whatever flavor of SIP it is under the hood. How is that going to change with the transition to Teams? Is there going to have to be, a different mechanism for registration, or is it just going to be something that you guys collaborate on and just works with the same credentials?
Yeah, is this for group series devices?
Correct, group series.
Yep. So we are working very, very closely with Polycom to make sure that there's a good transition for that to get those devices into Teams.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't think we can share any sort of timeline for that, but that's a close collaboration that we have right now.
Sure. So as long as one doesn't stop working before the other is working, then I'm good.
Point taken.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, I just want to address the group series question quickly. So we are working closely with them in a development front right now. You'll see that same experience integrated into that same Skype-like UI when time comes. That partnership is relevant. We had a press release about this yesterday. And the timeline's coming that we're looking to do something. Well, again, NDA, can't speak, but we're talking about it as soon as it's available.
Great. No others? All right. Well, thanks for joining. And enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.